Morning came slowly to the mining outpost. The sky, still hazy from smoke and battle, glowed a dull orange. Red sat on a broken supply crate, rubbing soot from his hands. Around him, alien soldiers repaired their gear, patched wounds, and carried away the remains of their fallen enemies. He still couldn't believe what had happened. Only last night he was fixing a water pump, living his quiet life. Now he was surrounded by an army of aliens kneeling to some woman they called sovereign. And worse, they looked at him as if he were important too. Red shook his head, muttering to himself, "This is insane. I'm not a hero. I'm a mechanic. That's all." But the sovereign walked toward him then, her repaired armor shining faintly in the morning light. She moved with strength despite her injuries, her presence commanding every eye that turned to her. Yet when she stopped in front of Red, her expression softened. "You did well last night," she said. Red groaned. "No, I just fixed a turret. That's it. I don't know how to fight like your soldiers. I don't want to fight like them." "You underestimate yourself," she replied calmly. "Without you, that turret would have stayed broken. Without you, my armor would still be failing. Without you, I would not be standing here." Red avoided her gaze. Compliments from miners or colonists never bothered him. But praise from her felt different, too heavy, as if it carried responsibility he didn't want. "Look," he said at last, "I'm glad I helped. But you don't need me. You've got an army. You've got ships. I'm just me." The sovereign studied him quietly. "My army respects strength, but their strength is rigid. They follow tradition. They cannot see what you see. Last night you looked at a pile of scrap and saw a weapon. That is something my people cannot do." Red frowned. "So you're saying I think differently?" "Yes. And that is why I need you." Her words unsettled him. He had spent years avoiding attention, living far from wars and rulers. Now this woman, this queen, this sovereign, was telling him he mattered. It felt wrong. Before he could respond, one of the soldiers approached and bowed. "Hi, Sovereign. The council waits aboard the flagship." The sovereign nodded. She looked back at Red. "You will come with me." "What? No way." Red stood quickly, waving his hands. "I'm not council material. You don't want me in your meetings." "I do," she said firmly. "The council must see you, and you must see them." Against his will, Red was led aboard the massive alien flagship that had landed beyond the ridge. Inside, the ship felt like stepping into another world. Walls of polished silver glowed with faint light, and alien script pulsed across panels he could not understand. Soldiers and attendants bowed as the sovereign passed, their eyes flicking curiously at the human who walked at her side. At the center of the ship was the council chamber, a round hall filled with alien leaders. They stood in long cloaks, their faces marked with sharp tattoos of rank and family. When the sovereign entered, they all bowed low. Then their eyes landed on Red. Whispers spread instantly. He caught fragments of words: human, chosen, repairer. He shifted uncomfortably under their gaze, wishing he could vanish into the floor. The sovereign raised her hand and silence fell. She spoke in her language, strong and commanding. Though Red did not understand the words, he understood her tone. She was telling them who he was and what he had done. At last, one counselor stepped forward, speaking in careful human tongue. "The sovereign tells us you repaired her armor. You saved her life." Red scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. "Yeah, I guess I did. But it wasn't anything special. Just wires and circuits." The counselors exchanged looks. Another spoke. "To us it was not simple. To us it was destiny. The human who gave back the sovereign's strength must stand with her." Red raised his hands quickly. "Hold on, I'm not chosen. I'm not a fighter, not a leader. I'm just—" But the sovereign cut him off gently. "You are Red. That is enough." The council seemed satisfied with her words. But Red felt only more trapped. Every glance from these alien leaders felt like a chain pulling him deeper into something he didn't want. Later, as the council discussed war strategy, Red sat silently in the corner. They spoke of numbers, formations, honor, and rituals. Their plans were precise but stiff, predictable. Red listened, frowning. He could see flaws, gaps in their defenses, wasted energy, but he stayed quiet. What did he know? He was no soldier. Finally, the sovereign turned to him. "You have been listening. Speak." Red nearly choked. "What? No, no, don't put me on the spot." "Speak," she repeated, dozens of eyes fixed on him. Red swallowed. His voice came out nervous but honest. "Well, I mean, your plans are fine, but you're setting yourselves up. The enemy will see those patterns coming from light years away. You need to move differently. Less honor, more surprise. Use broken satellites as traps. Hide in asteroid fields. Don't fight where they expect you," the counselors murmured in shock. To them, such tactics were unthinkable, dishonorable, irregular. But the sovereign's eyes gleamed. "You see what they cannot," she said. Red shook his head, slumping, back in his chair. "I wasn't trying to be smart, it just seemed obvious." "Exactly," she replied. When the meeting ended, the sovereign walked with him through the shining halls. "You are reluctant," she said softly. "I understand. But you are already part of this. My people believe you were sent by fate. I believe you are here for a reason." Red sighed deeply. He looked out a window where stars glittered cold and endless. All he wanted was to be a simple mechanic on a dusty colony, but now he was being pulled into a war larger than he could imagine. "I don't want to be a hero," he said quietly. The sovereign placed her hand on the glass beside his. "Heroes do not choose the moment. The moment chooses them." Red closed his eyes. Somewhere deep inside, he knew his quiet life was gone. He had stepped into a story much larger than himself. And no matter how hard he resisted, destiny was already moving him forward. The flagship hummed quietly as it cruised above the desert planet. Red sat stiffly in a metallic chair, feeling entirely out of place. Around him, the alien council continued their discussions. Every few minutes they paused to watch the sovereign, who stood tall and commanding, listening to each speaker carefully. Red had learned quickly. Alien councils were full of rules, hierarchy, and endless speeches. They debated endlessly about honor, strategy, and customs. Each suggestion seemed more complicated than the last, but it all followed tradition. Red had been silent, mostly observing. At one point, a counselor leaned toward the sovereign. "The human's suggestions are unusual. He does not follow our code of tactics. We cannot rely on him." The sovereign turned sharply, her voice firm. "Unusual does not mean wrong. Watch him. He sees things we cannot. His mind is not bound by our rules. That is why he is here." Red felt a cold sweat. Everyone was watching him, judging him, expecting him to do more than fix machines. He was just a simple mechanic, not a soldier. He tried to shrink into his chair, wishing he could vanish. "Red," the sovereign said softly, motioning him forward. "You will have a test. Nothing cruel, I promise, but you must show the council what I see in you." Red's stomach dropped. "Test? I don't even have a weapon. I can't fight like your soldiers." "You do not need to fight like them," she replied. "You need only to think." The counselors exchanged looks, whispering among themselves. They seemed doubtful that a human could even understand war strategy at their level. Red felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity. The sovereign led him to the edge of the flagship, where an orbital station floated silently in the planet's upper atmosphere. Its hull was scarred, lights flickering. It had been sabotaged, a trap set by enemies to block the sovereign's fleet. Red stared at it. "This is broken. That's what you want me to do?" "Yes," she said. "Repair it. Make it ready for defense. You have one chance. You succeed and the council will see your value. Fail, and my fleet may be trapped." Red gulped. The pressure hit him like a hammer. He had fixed broken machines before, yes. But a floating war station? Under attack? It was nothing like a water pump or mining drone. He swallowed and stepped forward, determined to do what he could. Inside the station, chaos met him. Sparks flew from broken consoles. Doors refused to open. The entire control system blinked red with errors. Red immediately went to work, scanning panels and patching circuits. He pulled loose wires, replaced damaged circuits, and rerouted power wherever he could. Minutes passed. Sweat dripped from his forehead. Every alarm, every flicker of light reminded him the enemy could appear at any moment. But Red's hands moved with skill and certainty. He was not trained for war, but he was trained to fix what was broken. And this station was broken. He climbed to the main control deck, twisting valves and reconnecting damaged energy conduits. Slowly, the station began to hum. Lights returned, systems rebooted, and shields flickered back online. Red wiped his hands on his pants and breathed heavily. It's working, he whispered to himself. Outside, the flagship's sensors registered the change. The counselors, observing from their chambers, gasped. The Sovereign's eyes lit with pride. "You see," she said, "even in our most advanced war machines, a human mind can find solutions we cannot. That is why he is here." Red blushed, embarrassed by the attention. He wished he could step aside and let the soldiers claim the glory. But now, the counselors were watching him like a hero. "Impressive," one counselor had. The flagship drifted quietly above the desert world. But the calm was a lie. Reports poured in. Enemy fleets were approaching faster than anyone expected. Red sat in the observation deck, gripping the railing. His heart pounded as he stared at blinking red signals on the control screens. "I thought we had time," he muttered. The Sovereign stood beside him, her repaired armor gleaming in the soft glow of the control room. She placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "We never had time. We only act when it is required. Are you ready?" Red swallowed hard. "Ready? I don't know if I'm ready. I fixed a station. That's it." She gave him a sharp look. "You did more than that. And now you will do more. Trust yourself." The first enemy ships appeared as tiny dots in the distance. Moments later, they grew into massive black vessels moving with silent menace. The coalition fleet led by the Sovereign prepared to meet them in battle. But Red's instincts noticed something strange. Patterns, movements that seemed too predictable. He frowned. "Wait," he said, pointing at the holographic display. "Their approach? It's a trap. They're trying to split our forces." The counselors around him looked skeptical. "We have faced enemies before," one said. "Your human intuition cannot replace strategy." Red ignored them. He leaned over the controls, rerouting energy and adjusting shields. "No time for arguments. If we stay in formation, we'll get surrounded. We need to act differently." The Sovereign nodded. "Do it." At that moment, a warning blared. One of the Sovereign's generals had betrayed them. Red's eyes widened. "What?" he shouted. The Sovereign's jaw tightened. "He has opened our gates to the enemy. They are already inside our perimeter. Red, we need you." Panic threatened to take over, but Red focused. His hands moved quickly, rerouting defense systems and activating emergency turrets. Sparks flew as he worked under the pressure of alarms, the sound of the enemy hammering at their defenses like a storm. The enemy ships tore into the outer hull of the flagship, but Red's quick adjustments kept critical systems alive. Shields shimmered and bent energy blasts, holding the fleet together. The Sovereign leaped into the fray, her glowing armor cutting through enemy fire. Her soldiers followed her, fighting with precision and skill, but they could not anticipate every attack. That was Red's strength. He could see what no trained soldier could. Gaps in the enemy's assault, weak points in their formation, routes that could be used to strike back. "Through the left corridor," Red shouted, pointing at the holographic map. "They're clustering. There, if we hit it, we can split their forces." Soldiers hesitated, but the Sovereign moved first, trusting him. Her troops followed her lead, breaking enemy lines with speed and strategy. Red watched as his simple ideas made the impossible possible. But even as they gained the advantage, a massive explosion rocked the flagship. Alarms screamed, lights flickered, and smoke filled the room. Red coughed, his ears ringing. The enemy ships had broken through, powered by the traitor general's sabotage. "Red!" the Sovereign shouted. "We need the turret, now!" Red ran to the damaged weapon station. The turret's barrel was bent, circuits fried. He glanced at the enemy approaching fast. Time ran out. He didn't hesitate. With skilled hands, he ripped out broken parts, connected backup circuits, and forced the weapon online. Sparks flew and the turret roared to life. Its energy beam struck the enemy vessel directly, tearing it apart. The soldiers cheered, but there was no time to celebrate. Another wave of ships approached. Red's eyes darted across the controls, finding every weak spot, rerouting energy, and activating defense systems. Each decision was quick, precise, and life-saving. The battle raged for hours. The Sovereign fought fiercely, her glowing armor slicing through enemies like a living weapon. Red stayed at the control panels, fixing broken turrets, rerouting energy, and saving lives wherever he could. Every action mattered. Every second counted. Finally, the last of the enemy ships was disabled. Silence fell over the battlefield, broken only by the distant groans of damaged vessels. The Sovereign's soldiers regrouped, victorious but weary. Red sank to his knees, exhausted. He could barely breathe, his hands covered in sweat and grime. The Sovereign approached him, her armor lightly scorched but still gleaming. "You did it," she said quietly. "Without you, this battle would have been lost." Red shook his head, still trying to catch his breath. I just fixed what was broken. I didn't fight like you or your soldiers," she smiled faintly. "That is exactly why it mattered. Courage is not only in combat. It is in seeing what needs to be done, even when everyone else cannot." Around them, soldiers knelt again, their helmets lowered in respect. Red looked around, astonished. Not just the Sovereign, but the army itself seemed to acknowledge him now. He had not trained for war, had not wielded a weapon in battle, and yet he had changed the outcome. The traitor general was captured and disarmed. His betrayal exposed, he would face judgment according to alien law. The Sovereign turned to Red once more. "Today the universe saw what humans are capable of," she said softly. "Your people are strong, clever, and brave. You," she gestured to him, "are an example of that strength." Red felt overwhelmed. He had never asked for glory or attention. He had wanted only a quiet life-fixing machines. Yet here he was, celebrated by an entire alien army, recognized as a hero in a battle that could have destroyed countless lives. He looked at the horizon, where the last enemy ships retreated. The desert sky was calm once more, the stars shining faintly through the smoke. He took a deep breath. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," he admitted, almost to himself. "You will," the Sovereign said, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Because the galaxy will continue to challenge you, and you will rise. That is what humans do." Red smiled weakly, exhausted but proud. For the first time, he realized that he could face more than broken machines. He could face challenges that seemed impossible, and succeed. The soldiers continued to kneel, whispering praises in their alien tongue. The Sovereign looked at Red, her expression both fierce and gentle. "You are part of this now," she said. "Whether you like it or not, you are no longer just Red the mechanic. You are Red, the unexpected hero of our people." Red nodded slowly, understanding the weight of her words. He had wanted only to live quietly, but the universe had chosen differently, and perhaps he was ready. The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke drifted across the desert sky, and the stars shimmered faintly above the wreckage. The fleet of enemy ships had been driven away, the traitor captured, and the Sovereign's army stood victorious. Yet amidst the triumph, Red felt something strange, a mix of exhaustion, disbelief, and awe. He had survived. He had acted when it mattered most. He had repaired, guided, and helped lead in ways he had never imagined. And now every alien soldier he had met looked at him differently. They no longer saw only a human mechanic. They saw someone who had shaped the outcome of a battle, who had helped save a people. The Sovereign stood at the edge of the desert, her armor glinting in the moonlight. Around her, the soldiers kneeled once more, heads bowed. But something was different this time. Their eyes flicked toward Red as well, respect and gratitude shining through their expressions. Red's stomach twisted. He had never sought attention. He had never wanted glory. He had only fixed what was broken. And yet, here he was, acknowledged, not just by a queen, but by an entire army. The Sovereign approached him, her boots crunching against the sand. She looked calm and powerful, yet there was a warmth in her eyes as she addressed him. "Red," she said, her voice carrying across the silent battlefield. "Your actions have proven something important. You are more than you realize. You have shown courage, intelligence, and strength in ways we could not have imagined." Red scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. I don't feel like a hero. I'm just a mechanic. I fixed a few things, that's all." She shook her head. "That is what makes you remarkable. Heroes are not born from titles or weapons. Heroes are born from the courage to act when others hesitate. You acted, Red. You saved lives. You saved me. That is all the heroism that matters." He looked down at the sand, still unsure. It was too much. Too many people depending on him. Too many eyes watching him. Yet, deep inside, he felt something else. A spark. A quiet pride he hadn't known before. The soldiers rose to their feet slowly, forming lines around the Sovereign and Red. Their weapons were lowered, their armor gleaming. One by one, they spoke in their alien tongue, a chant that resonated through the night. Though Red could not understand the words, he felt their meaning. Respect, loyalty, honor. The Sovereign turned to him again, her expression softening. "They recognize you not just as my ally, but as someone who represents the strength of your people. Humans are clever, adaptable, and brave. Tonight the universe has seen that clearly." Red swallowed hard. The weight of her words settled over him. He had never imagined such recognition. He had never imagined that his small actions, fixing armor, repairing turrets, rerouting energy, could mean so much. And yet, here he was, standing beside a queen, surrounded by an army that honored him. A gentle breeze swept across the desert, carrying with it the faint scent of smoke and burning metal. Red closed his eyes and breathed deeply. For the first time in his life, he felt that he had done something important, something meaningful. The Sov. Captain Elias Ward moved slowly through the thick alien jungle. The air was heavy, warm, and filled with strange sounds. He could hear clicking, buzzing, and the cry of unknown creatures. His boots sank into the damp ground as he pushed aside glowing leaves that shined in the dark. He had been on many worlds before, but this one felt alive in a way he could not explain. Elias was alone. His ship had crashed 3 days earlier, when a sudden energy storm ripped through the sky. He survived the fall, but the ship was broken, beyond repair. Supplies were running low and he had no way to send a signal. All he could do was explore and hope to find shelter, or maybe signs of intelligent life. He did not have to wait long. The shadows around him shifted. Strange clicking sounds grew louder, closer, surrounding him. Elias froze and slowly reached for the small sidearm at his belt. Before he could draw it, sharp spears of crystal and long alien weapons pointed at him from every side. Tall, insectoid figures stepped out of the jungle. Their bodies gleamed like polished armor, hard shells reflecting the glowing plants. Their eyes were large, black, and without pupils. They moved with perfect discipline, every step measured. Elias raised his hand slowly. "I don't want trouble," he said calmly. "I'm lost." The aliens did not answer. Instead, 2 of them jabbed their weapons forward, forcing him to move. Their language was made of hisses and clicks, sharp and quick, But even without knowing the words, Elias understood. Come with us. He walked, surrounded on all sides. The guards moved like shadows, silent except for the clicking of their claws. Soon the jungle opened into a wide clearing. Towers of black stone and living crystal rose high into the air. A hive city. It pulsed with green light, like veins of energy running through it. Hundreds of insectoid beings worked, moved, and marched in perfect order. The guards led Elias into the heart of the hive. The deeper they went, the more the air smelled of dust, oil, and strange, sweet nectar. At last, they entered a massive chamber. The ceiling was high, covered with webs of shining, silk and glowing crystals. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat a towering figure larger than any of the guards, the alien queen. She sat on a throne made of living stone, her body draped in silk-like strands. Her crown was not a metal piece, but a natural part of her head, curved horns that glowed faintly. Her eyes were brighter than the others, deep violet with an inner fire. She did not need to move to show power. Her presence filled the chamber. The guards pushed Elias forward until he stood before her throne. Their weapons stayed aimed at his chest. Elias kept his hands visible, calm but alert. The queen's voice was strong, layered with echo, like many voices speaking at once. Human. Elias was surprised she spoke his language, though her accent was harsh. You enter my world without permission, she continued. You dare walk through my jungle. Tell me, why should I not end your life now? Her guards hissed in agreement, their weapons glowing brighter. Elias felt the danger pressing close, but he stood tall. I did not come here by choice. My ship crashed. I am only trying to survive. The queen tilted her head slightly, studying him with cold, endless eyes. Humans are liars, thieves. You take what is not yours. You burn the sky and poison the ground. Why should I believe you are different? Elias met her gaze. Believe me or not, it's the truth. I'm not here to harm you. The guards hissed louder, their weapons almost touching him. One wrong move, and he would be gone. Elias held his breath. Then something changed. A soft sound came from behind him. A small laugh. A child's laugh. Elias froze. Slowly, he turned, his head slightly, careful not to alarm the guards. Two small figures stood in the shadows at the far side of the chamber. They looked like the queen, but smaller, their shells not yet fully hardened, their movements lighter and curious. Their large eyes glowed softly as they peeked from behind a crystal pillar. They were children, alien princesses. The guards noticed them and shifted, but before they could act, the queen's voice thundered through the hall. Stop! Every guard froze instantly. Their weapons stayed aimed, but none dared fire. The queen had risen slightly from her throne, her eyes wide, not with anger, but with something else. Fear? No. Something deeper. Her gaze locked on the two children, then on Elias, who stood between them. Her breathing changed, sharper, heavier. Elias realized the truth in that moment. The children behind him were hers, her daughters, the queen's. Claws tightened around the edge of her throne. She did not speak right away. The silence was heavy, pressing down on everyone in the chamber. The guards did not know what to do. They looked at her, waiting for orders. Elias lowered his hands slowly. I didn't know, he said quietly, his voice steady. I didn't come here for them. The queen's eyes narrowed. Her daughters stepped out a little more, curious about the strange human. One of them clicked softly, a gentle sound, almost playful. The queen finally spoke, her voice lower now. Do not move, human. Elias nodded. He did not move. The chamber felt like it was holding its breath. The queen's guards were ready to strike. The daughters watched with innocent wonder. And the queen herself, ruler of a vast hive, feared and obeyed, stood frozen, caught between power, fear, and something no one expected, the instinct of a mother. The chamber was silent. The guards still held their crystal weapons aimed at Elias, ready to strike at the first sign of danger. But none of them moved without the Queen's order. The tension was sharp like a blade hanging in the air. Queen Zirana's violet eyes fixed on the human. She saw him standing so close to her daughters, too close for comfort. Her claws twitched against the armrest of her throne. If he made even a wrong breath, she could order her guards to end him. But she did not. She hesitated. Her daughters peeked from behind Elias. They were too young to understand the danger. The taller one clicked softly, tilting her head as she studied the strange creature standing before their mother's throne. The younger one let out a curious chirp and stepped closer, as if she wanted to touch Elias's hand. "Stay back." The Queen's voice shook the walls. The younger princess froze, frightened by the command, but she did not hide again. Her wide eyes flicked between her mother and the human. Elias raised his hands higher, careful to keep his movements slow. His voice was calm. "I'm not here to hurt them. I didn't even know they were behind me." The Queen narrowed her eyes. "Lies. You use them as shields. Clever, but foolish." Elias shook his head slightly. "No, that's not who I am. I didn't know they were your daughters. I don't use children for protection." The guards hissed, their weapons buzzing louder, but they did not fire. They watched their queen. Zirana studied him carefully. Her instincts screamed that he was dangerous, but her daughter's eyes told her something else. Why were they not afraid? Why did they look at him with such curiosity? The taller princess took another step. "Mother," she said softly in her native tongue. "He is different, not like the others." Elias did not understand the words, but he understood the tone. The girl spoke gently, without fear. "Enough," the Queen snapped, her voice sharp. "Return to your chamber. Now." The daughters hesitated. They glanced once more at Elias, then moved slowly back into the shadows. But their eyes lingered on him until the very last moment. The Queen sat straighter, her authority returning. "You stand in a place where no human should ever be. Do you know how many of your kind have tried to invade my hive? How many came, with promises of peace but brought only destruction?" Elias's voice stayed steady. "I don't speak for them. I'm only speaking for myself. I came here because I had no choice. My ship crashed. I was searching for survivors from a lost human colony. I didn't come to fight you." Zirana leaned forward slightly, her glowing horns casting shadows on the walls. "Do you think I am a fool, human? Do you think your words can soften me because you stood near my children?" Elias did not flinch under her gaze. "No, I think my actions will speak louder than my words. If I wanted to harm them, I would have tried. I didn't. That should mean something." The guards hissed again, but there was a faint crack in the Queen's expression, a flicker of doubt. For a long moment, no one moved. Then at last, Zirana lifted one clawed hand. The guards lowered their weapons a fraction, though their eyes never left Elias. "You will not be executed, yet," the Queen said coldly. "But you will remain here, under watch. You will answer my questions, human. And if I find even one reason to believe you are a threat, not even the cries of my daughters will save you." Elias nodded once. "That's fair." The Queen clicked her mandibles, a sound of irritation. She was not used to a human speaking to her without fear. He did not grovel, he did not beg. He simply stood and answered her. "Strange. Guards," she commanded. "Take him to the holding chamber. Do not harm him unless I order it. He is to be kept alive." The guards moved in closer, pushing Elias, back with their weapons. He walked calmly, not resisting, though his eyes flicked once more to the shadows where he had last seen the princesses. As he was led away, the younger princess whispered something in her mother's language. "He is not like the others, mother. Please do not hurt him." Zirana did not answer. She sat back on her throne, claws tapping against the stone. Her mind raced. Humans were dangerous, she knew this well, but her daughters had never spoken with such curiosity about a prisoner before. They were born into Rue fear intruders, yet they had looked at this one with Inti.